Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are having a chit chat. We are having a tea talk, I decided I would call it. Maybe I will start a series called Tea Talk. I've got my hot cinnamon sunset tea here brewing that actually one of you sent me, Lori. Thank you for the little care package that you sent me back in April. I'm still savoring the tea. Hot cinnamon sunset is one of my favorite teas. But I used to do Let's Talk videos all the time, and they were more like chit-chatty heart-to-hearts. And I realized during the atmosphere video that I did that you guys have missed the chit-chat chats. And so I have another video on my heart that I wanted to share, and so I thought I would do a little tea time talk with you guys. This was actually inspired by a few messages that I've received this summer. I've received messages like this in all the years I've been on YouTube, but I've never quite felt ready to make this video, but I decided that today I would go ahead and have this heart-to-heart with you guys. And then I have another similar video that I think I'm gonna put up next. So I'll be wearing the same thing because I poured my heart out onto paper, and I wanted to do these videos back to back while I had them on my heart. So yeah, that was a weird intro. I'm gonna just go with it and not refilm. So here are the 10 things I wish I knew when I started homeschooling. All right, prop change. That guitar was echoing. I could hear myself the whole time. Okay, so over the years, I have gotten this question a ton in messages, like, what would your advice be to those of us who are just starting? Or if you could go back, would you do anything differently? Or since you're homeschooling in middle school, is there anything that you would have changed along the way? And I always, like, that's always a sweet thought, like, oh, one day I'll make that video, one day I'll make that video. And then I got a couple messages like that the last time I shared that atmosphere video, and I was like, you know what? I do feel like now's the time. And so I just like wrote all of my thoughts, and I had to split it into 2 videos because I have some tips that I would consider to be more practical tips for new homeschoolers, but then I also have things that I just wish I could go back and tell myself and know that I would have listened. Or maybe I was told these things and I just didn't listen, which that is how it goes. You can't convince, and you shouldn't convince. The best lessons are the ones that you learn on your own, the moments you're being refined. Like, there's no way to go back and or to convince people of things that experience has taught you, you know what I mean? But if I could tell myself these things and know that I would listen to myself, these are the things I would have told myself about our own personal homeschooling journey. That being said, you still might not even relate to all of these things because it is so personal. Homeschooling is a totally personal experience for everyone. And so you may not relate to all 10 of these points, but these are the things that I wish I knew when I started homeschooling. And then I'm going to do a twin video to this. I'm gonna sit down and film it right after I film this one, so it'll look just the same. And they're gonna be the more practical tips for new homeschoolers. So it's a 2-part video. So one kind of more personal and then one more practical. So because it's our 10th year that we're starting, I'm gonna share my 10 things I wish I knew when I started homeschooling. Number 1 is you don't have to get ahead academically. Also, to that point, it's okay if you do. You know your kid. So one thing that I initially struggled with when my daughter was literally 3 and 4 years old was thinking that I had to do so much for preschool. And I was definitely more stern than I needed to be with my 3 and 4-year-old at the time. And if I could go back, you guys know I've talked about that all the time, I would not have put so much focus on handwriting and on getting answers right and things like that. At the same time, now I've had 4 kids. We've homeschooled. Our 4th is in her last little year of preschool at home. She'll be in kindergarten next year, which is bananas. So we're finishing up 10 years of homeschooling for preschool consistently back to back. So that being said, it's okay if you do have a kid who gets ahead academically. I think there's this interesting thing that happens where some moms will say, like, you don't have to do anything for preschool, or don't do anything for preschool, just read, just have fun. And then there are some moms who are like, preschool is a starting point for kindergarten and reading and da-da-da. My experience has shown me that every kid is so different and you are the only one who knows your kid. So you don't have to apologize if you are getting ahead, or if you have a kid who's ready to read or a kid who's ready to do school and you honestly know that they're ready. And you also don't have to apologize to anybody if you aren't doing anything for preschool, or if it looks totally different than like a VPK type of preschool in your home. Like, there's really no, you don't have to get ahead. And also, you don't have to apologize if you have a kid who does get ahead academically. So number one point is like, it really looks different for every kid. It's nobody's business how you choose to do those early homeschool years. That would be my number one point, is like, my first kid was ready to get out of the gate running. My second kid was super not interested in school at all unless it was a sensory bin. My third kid wanted to kind of hang out with us a little bit, kind of sometimes wanted to do school like crazy, sometimes had no interest at all. And then Annie was born like, when do I start reading? And it's been a strange experience because, you know, you're doing something different with every kid. I'm starting Annie with a reading program this year at 4 years old, and I feel the heat from people on doing that early. I also felt the heat from people when we were still doing sensory bins at 6 and 7 years old with another kid. So bottom line is, you know your kid best academically. You don't have to get ahead, and you don't have to apologize if you do. So there's really no way to please everyone. You're their mom. Number two, there is no keeping up with the Joneses. So I wish I could go back and tell myself this at the beginning, because I truly thought that homeschool had to look this way. And then I saw something and I was like, oh no, it's supposed to look this way. Oopsies, it's gotta look this way. There is no keeping up with the Joneses. Things are trendy in homeschool. It's becoming a very popular thing to do. It's not the homeschool of the 80s and 90s. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of bright, shiny things out there. You cannot keep up with everybody's curriculum choices, the way their schoolroom looks. Not everybody has to do sensory bins. Like, there's really no way to keep up with everyone. You're gonna fatigue yourself. You're going to fatigue your kids. It's not gonna be an enjoyable experience. So find what works for you and don't be ashamed of that. Stick to it. Know your kids, know your home, know yourself, know what's best, and don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Number three, personally, the best support a spouse to a homeschooler can offer is not necessarily academic support. So one of the things that I see happening a lot when there are new homeschoolers, and one of the things that John and I really wrestled with when we started homeschooling, and really even through like the midpoint of our homeschool, is trying to figure out like, where does dad fit in our homeschool? My brother, for example, is a homeschooling dad, and his wife would be like the support spouse to the homeschool. So where does, mom fit into the homeschool here? And I think that as soon as I had this realization, everything got so much easier in our house, because John was feeling kind of left out, like, I don't know how I can help you. And it was just a difficult thing to balance. Like, I want to give you a place, but our homeschool really happens every day by 2. I'm not really sure how, like, when you come home at 5, how to incorporate that. The best support a spouse can offer is household support outside of homeschool. So for us, I told John, like, really what helps me so much more than homeschool is when you help me with our home. Because when I'm done homeschooling, there are things I've neglected around the house, things that are making me feel guilty, like, oh, I'm doing a terrible job balancing homemaking and homeschooling. And just to know that, one, I've got reinforcements coming when it comes to the house, and 2, that he knows that by helping me with things around the house, or helping with routines, bedtime routines, so I can school plan, things like that, releasing me to be like the solo homeschooling parent in our house and bringing in support elsewhere, it's been such a blessing for both of us. He now sees those things as supporting our homeschool. I feel less guilty about needing his help in those areas because I see it as us working in tandem for our homeschool, even though we're not both homeschooling. So I wish I would have recognized that at the beginning. It was really awkward for me to just like find a place for him, but also all the guilt of dropping balls all over the place. And as soon as I could identify that the best support he could offer me was outside of the actual homeschool and within our home, it was like the best thing. So that was my next point. Number 3, Sometimes the best support a spouse can offer is unrelated to homeschooling, but still related to homeschooling. You know, does that make sense? Number 4, next point is take time to fill your bucket. Mom life still happens when you close the books for the day, and more so than mom life still happening, that relationship, those relational moments between you and the kids is the most important relationship. It serves your homeschool well, but it also, you know, is so important for you and your kids just in general to have a healthy relationship. And for me, it's necessary for me to take a moment when we finish our school day before we go on with the rest of our afternoon and evening to make sure I'm having some quiet time or it's just some personal space. So what that looks like for me is I usually have lunch alone. I wait until my kids are in quiet time and I have lunch, or I take some time to have some tea and read in the afternoon. I personally need quiet. I'm an easily sensory overload kind of person, and so I need to just take a minute. Sometimes it looks like working out in the early afternoon if I didn't work out in the morning, just not feeling guilty for taking the 20, 30, 45 minutes I need for myself while my kids are in quiet time, because what that does for me is it resets me for the afternoon, and I feel like I can then go into our afternoon and evening. And this was especially true when John was working like 12 to 14-hour days and I was doing the whole day through bedtime by myself. It then gives me some motivation and momentum to get through the afternoon joyfully instead of being run down. Because the worst thing that I was doing at the time is I would like fatigue myself in homeschool, and then I would like be exhausted and kind of crabby, and then feel guilty about being crabby, and then like dismissing my kids a lot and being like, go play, and not really like doing the afternoons and evenings well. And therefore starting to lose that foundation of solid relationship with my kids that is necessary for homeschooling them joyfully. And so it's just really important, that would be my next tip, to just take the time for yourself to fill your bucket, find something that helps you rest and feel nourished, nourish your soul before you go into the afternoon and evening, because the afternoon and evening, it's important. It's important to have those building blocks of relationship with your kids and to not just like throw yourself over the finish line when you finish homeschool and then feel ragged the rest of the day. Number 5, this is something that one of my girlfriends told me a couple years ago, and it's been one of the best bits of advice I've ever received. And she said, there is a difference between being inspired and being impressed. And so filter your intake through that. Is this person on social media, is this idea, is this book, is this friend inspiring you, or are they just impressing you? I think a lot, especially social media, is impression. You know, it's impressive. Oh wow, that organization is impressive. Oh, your homeschool day looks so impressive. Oh, all the stuff you got is so impressive. But is that wearing you down, or is that inspiring you to, I can do this, I can do that too, or like, oh, that would be relieving, or that would be beneficial or fruitful in our home. So for me, I have to constantly go through, I mean, social media, even like people that I initially started following change over the years. And so it's good to reevaluate what in your life is inspiring you and motivating you and freeing you, and what is impressing you and making you judge yourself or making you feel lesser than. So important, especially in homeschool, especially in this world of homeschool influencers, to really just sort through that, filter through that, be honest with yourself. Is this impressing you but also kind of hurting you, or is it impressing you in the sense of like, that's inspiring me and now I can do that too, and that would be beneficial for our home. Number 6, this one's super simple but it needs to be said. I know you've probably heard it a ton of times, but don't neglect the lap sitting moments for the table time, because you'll never get that time back with your kids and you will want it every day. And this is me speaking to myself. I wish more than anything that when Bella was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, that we read more, that she sat in my lap more, that I got on the floor and played with her more. I say it all the time, it's fun on the floor. I wish I had taken advantage of that time, not taken it for granted, because I miss it so much. I love the relationship she and I have now. She's almost 13. We have a great time together. She's a fun girl. I just wish I could shrink her down, put her back on my lap, and really enjoy that time. And the table time, you know, the schoolwork, the book work, it's always gonna be there, but those tender mornings where they wake up and they're just so squishy and they sit on your lap, or the evenings where you're stroking their hair and reading with them and praying with them, the afternoons where they're tired and they wanna take a nap and you can hold them while they fall asleep instead of just sending them off to their room to take a nap because you need it. Oh, I wish I could get that time back. I do. And I, you know, you can't. That's life. It goes by faster than you can catch it. And so if you have the privilege of homeschooling and you get to be home with your kids and you get to see them throughout, you know, all these different stages of their little life developmentally, and you can soak up those extra couple of hours each day of just being with them and not talking at them, oh, take it. It's so worth it. It's so valuable. It's such a blessing. And I wish more than anything I could go back and just feel what it felt like for her to sit in my lap one more time. I actually just said my next point. So point number 7 is it's fun on the floor. And it was something that I realized, like, you know, a few years into our homeschool, I had to have a year where I was like, dude, I'm spiraling out of control. I'm waking up. I'm like professionalizing this past the point of it being, you know, a comfortable household for me or the kids anymore. I had us on such a strict schedule, routine. To some degree, I needed like a really structured home because, again, of John's hours and just me being like needing to keep busy and needing to keep the kids busy and things like that. But also, like, I really had to slow down, pump the brakes and say, I need to just like not get up and put on like tailored pants and put on some sweatpants and get on the floor and play with my kids. And it's fun on the floor. And right now my boys are into Hot Wheels, and so I'm trying to make it a point to get on the floor and play Hot Wheels with them. But you know, I used to just get on the floor with them when I realized that this was something that I needed to incorporate into my days, and play board games, play blocks, play Play-Doh, play kinetic sand, get on the floor with them and do lessons down there on the floor. Like, it's just, it brings a whole different vibe to things when you're on the floor with them. And so it's fun on the floor. Eli tends to do every single one of his reading lessons on the floor. It's just where he's most comfortable. And so it takes down these walls for some reason. It's fun on the floor. Again, if I could go back, I wish I would have started doing that from the beginning. I was way too formal, way too structured, and it's really fun on the floor. Number 8, I need to read this because I need to read this straight off of the paper because I wrote it and it's all chicken scratch. Presenting perfection for acceptance is totally different than true contentment and the health of your family. So again, this one's related to social media, but also just in, you know, your relationships with your friends and just what you're trying to present to your family. Presenting perfection, kind of asking your kids to perform, whether that's like with behaviors that maybe they haven't, or habits they haven't fully formed, but like expecting it from them to get acceptance for yourself. Trying to promote this idea that you guys are doing better than you think you're doing personally. That's totally different than true contentment and the true health of your family. As soon as you stop being concerned with others' opinions of your homeschool, as soon as you stop trying to impress people with your homeschool or trying to gain acceptance of some people just aren't gonna like that you homeschool, and that's the bottom line, and just be done. Be done trying to impress people and trying to convince people. Spend more time focusing on the true health of your family and the true, you know, and being content yourself, because a lot of times that need to self-promote, that need to share how great you're doing, that really comes from a place of being discontent personally. And so address that, and then all of a sudden the need to gain acceptance from the outside world is no longer as important because you've addressed the true issue, which is that you are not content. Number 9, as my neighbor mows his lawn, there is no shame. In fact, there is true joy found in learning alongside of your kids versus instructing your kids all of the time. You don't have to be the best or the most knowledgeable. You don't have to study necessarily to instruct your kids. What I've found is that the best, best learning that we've done, the best unit studies that we've done, the best discovery that we've done as a family has come from books I've never read, experiences I've never had, lessons I've never learned, and learning alongside them, showing them my excitement when I learn something new, going and discovering new places together, telling them, I don't know, maybe we should watch a documentary about that, maybe we should read a book about that. There is a lot of joy in learning alongside your kids, and especially in showing them that being a lifelong learner is valuable and fun. And then the last point, this is kind of a heavy hitter here, so stick with me for a minute, but the last point is homeschooling is 100%, it's a part of your identity as a mom. It is impossible to separate homeschooling from motherhood or from fatherhood or grandmahood, if that is the situation you're in. It is impossible to separate that from who you are. There are things about homeschooling that, you know, stem from just your zest for life and things that you want to teach, and you don't have to separate being a homeschool mom from being a mom or being a dad or being a grandparent, but it's not your whole identity. And that is something that took me a really long time to learn. And the problem with that is that if you wrap your entire identity up in how your homeschool is going, or in what your kids are learning, or in giving yourself a grade, judging your performance as a homeschooler, if you wrap your identity up in that, inevitably you are going to feel defeated and like a failure. And this is something that I am constantly having to reevaluate in my life. Like literally every school year, I'm like, whoa, okay, I got really caught up in that thought. But inevitably, one of your kids is gonna have an off year. Inevitably, you will have a personal life crisis outside of homeschool that makes you have to halt homeschool. Inevitably, you know, there will be illnesses, or there will be circumstances, or there will be, you know, people that make you have to stop temporarily or give you a bad start, or, you know, cause conflict in the middle of your homeschool day or week or month or whatever it is. And if you're putting it all on you, if you're putting everything about your homeschool on your ability, like if you're judging yourself as a mother based on your ability to homeschool or based on how a school year went, if you're wrapping your entire identity in it, you are inevitably setting yourself up for failure. It is 100%, like I said, it is a part of who you are. Don't let people tell you it's not, because some people will say like, oh, it's not who being a homeschool mom is not who you are. It is who you are. I love mothering my children. I love, you know, watching every hour of their day happen. I love seeing them get excited about things. It is 100% a part of who I am. I cannot separate being a homeschool mom from being a mom outside of our homeschool hours. It is a part of our family culture, like even more deeply than it just being a part of me as mom. It's a part of our family culture. It's a part of our entire household. So I can't separate that. So don't let people tell you like, oh, being a homeschool mom is not who you are. It is. It's just not all that you are. And you are not single-handedly responsible for everything that goes wrong or everything that goes right. So don't incorporate, or don't get yourself so wrapped up in that you start to personally feel victimized by your own homeschool year. And that is just, like I said, that's a lesson that I'm still learning. It's a consistent thing I need to reevaluate, but it's maybe the most important one. A lot of times relationship has struggled in our home, or I've personally just, you know, felt defeated, and it wasn't necessary. Those feelings, those frustrations were not necessary. They were fully related to the fact that I could not see myself outside of being fully responsible for our homeschool, and that my success as a mom was fully determined by our homeschool. So those are the 10 things that I wish I could have understood when I started homeschooling on a more personal, emotional level. Like I said, in a couple of weeks, or in a couple of days, or maybe even tomorrow, or maybe Tuesday, I don't know, I will be sharing the top 10 practical tips I have for new homeschoolers. So I hope you guys enjoyed this chit chat going along this little walk down memory lane with me, things I wish I would have done differently, although at the same time, I wouldn't trade the experiences I've had over the last 10 years for anything. It has been refining in the best ways and in the worst ways, but I wouldn't trade it for anything, because the lessons that it has taught me, that homeschooling has taught me, the lessons I've learned along the way, the things I've changed and tweaked and implemented based on personal lessons learned have been amazing, and like I said, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But those are the things that I wish I would have considered when I started homeschooling. So if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments down below what you wish you had known when you started homeschooling, and I will see you guys for my next video. Bye.